Welcome to the funnel. My name is John Shea, and I'm president of Alignment Group. This is episode number 253 of the funnel. Savvy sales reps ask what's in it for me. Before we begin, I want to ask you to head on over to alignment-group.com/the funnel. If you subscribe to the funnel, you'll have the opportunity to free coaching call. You just go through the subscribe process. The thank you page will open up, and there's a link there to schedule your time with me for the free 30-minute coaching call. So let's jump into today's agenda. Reality check. Hard work is personal. What about goal setting and connecting the dots? So my guess is that most of you are trying to figure out what this podcast is about when I say savvy sales reps ask what's in it for me. I think the conclusion that I came to a long time ago as a manager and a VP, and quite frankly as a rep, is that you're asked to perform a job in sales that is in some ways without a safety net, right? Your entire income and your entire world is dependent upon your ability to drive business. Now, there's all these support mechanisms in place for you as a rep with the company, whether it's administrative or technical support, however support is defined in your industry and your company, it's there. You might be paid a small, or I shouldn't say small salary, but a salary to get you through the day. But ultimately, your income is dependent upon your ability to sell. Because if you don't sell, the salary is going to be meaningless because you won't have a job. So most sales reps in a self-preservation mode ask the question, what's in it for me? Whenever they're asked to do something, it's what's in it for me. And I think a lot of managers misinterpret what that means when they ask that question. And I think it's unreasonable in some cases to cast a negative light upon those reps that say that, or force people to pretend that they don't believe that in order to survive in a company. I think what we should do is recognize that that's probably more of the standard than not. That sales reps are going to ask, what's in it for me? And our ability to translate what we need as a company, as a manager and as a team, into what's in it for them is going to make or break your success in the long run. I'm sure there's a lot of things like development and training and coaching. It all goes into the success of a sales rep. But if you can't communicate the corporate goals in a way that they understand it, and is going to be beneficial to them, then you're going nowhere. So I think it's reasonable to say, what is it that we need to do? What's the reality check here? Well, everything rolls downhill, right? So there's another term for that. I'm not going to curse on this podcast, but most of you know what that means. The process of developing the plan or the goals for the year, the strategy for the year, generally starts at the corporate level, right? So the executives or the corporate or the business owner decides what they want in the coming year, and they build a strategy around that, and that includes sales numbers. Those corporate numbers translate to your team number, right? And then you look at the team number and you translate that to the individuals. Well, by the time it gets to the sales rep, oftentimes it doesn't translate well. They're looking at this quota and they're saying, you're saddling me with a big quota because the company needs to make more money. I'm just giving you a scenario here. Or my number increased significantly over last year because I was successful, or this year because I was successful last year. What they're doing is they're looking at that number and they're looking at what they're being given, and they're doing the analysis of what's in it for me. What do I get if this happens? And more importantly, they're asking, what happens to me if I don't make it? And they're making all of their decisions based on that. They're deciding what they want to do. Sometimes that can be a motivator, right? I can make more money. I can do this. I can do that. Other times it can be a demotivator. No matter how much I do, this is what they're saying in their head, my number goes up significantly every year. So you got to think about that. Think about the reality of what you're delivering. What you're delivering may not have the same meaning to the rep as it has to you or the corporate executives. Maybe you're saying that. What's in it for me when I get that number as a manager? The truth is, hard work is a very personal thing. You want your sales reps to work hard for you, it's personal. They have to want to do it. They don't work for you. Yes, they work for the company. The company pays their salary and bonuses and commissions. They have benefits. I get all of that. But ultimately, people who work hard, they work for themselves. Now, some may argue, well, what about the greater good? They want to work for something bigger than themselves and they want to contribute. Yes. Yes, they do. Okay? So I'm not taking away from that. That's the personal reasons. That's where it gets personal for them. Maybe somebody wants to work for a company that not only provides them a source of income, but gives back to the community, right? That volunteers for something like Habitat for Humanity or does other things in the community. And that's personal. They're still working for themselves. If a company does that, maybe they don't go work for them or stay with them. The hard work, the personal work, is because they want some outcome for themselves. They need something in their daily, weekly, annual lives, whatever that is. Whether it's they want to buy a house, or they want to travel, or they want to give back themselves and do other things, or they have kids and they have to pay for college, a new car. It's very, very personal. And if we lose sight of that and we make the company bigger than the individual, when we have these conversations, we're losing them. You lose motivation. You lose the desire to succeed. That's why I'm introducing to this podcast the discussion wrapped around goal setting. What about goal setting? What does that mean? I've done podcasts on goal setting before. I've talked about it in my podcast, but I think it's an important place in this podcast to drop it in, because if it's personal and it's something that hard work is personal and the what's in it for me is part of the discussion, then we sure as heck want to know what kind of goals these folks have. So oftentimes goal setting is very boring. Okay, it's an exercise that most companies go through in like November or December with their reps. How much did you make last year? What do you want to make next year? And what are the kinds of activities you need to do to be successful? And it's great. You put it down on paper, you do the math, and everybody feels good because they can make their goal next year based on this exercise. Well, it's more than an exercise. It's way more than an exercise. It's more than the numbers. Again, it's personal. Goal setting is personal. What is it that you want to do in the next year, 2 years, 5 years that this job is going to help you attain? Let's talk about your career. Let's talk about the business. Let's talk about selling. And let's talk about the personal side. What do you want to do? What are your dreams? What are you passionate about? I really like fishing, okay? And I want this boat and there's this great lake, and I want to buy a house on this lake, and I want to fish in my spare time on the weekends. That's great. That's personal. How can I help you achieve that goal? What can we do here at the company to help you achieve that goal? I want to know what makes you tick. What do you want? Do you have kids you want to put through college? Do you want to buy a house? Do you want to travel? Do you want to give back? What makes you tick? What drives you as a sales rep to that end result? Those are the questions I'm asking as a manager. So when I get into goal setting, I'm not just going through this silly exercise every December to show you how you can hit your number without exploring the deeper sides of it. What is it truly going to take to be successful, and why is that important? What makes you tick? What are those personal objectives that you have? Then we can sit down and we can look at all the things we need to do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis to be successful in our business. From the high level goal setting right down to the tactical that needs to happen every day to make sure that we reach those targets and those goals. So how do we connect the dots? Your ability to understand two things is going to make you successful with this. One, understand exactly what it is the company's looking for. So you need to understand the company's goals, the company's strategic plan, the outcomes that they want from you and your team. Right? The second thing you need to understand is your sales team, your sales players. What do they need? What are their goals? What are their personal objectives? How do they want to define success for themselves in their lives? And it's more than just the business of hitting the number. Okay? It's about transitioning into their goals. What do they want to do to be successful? Once you understand that, now you have both sides of the coin. Now you have to match what the company wants to their goals, to them, and paint a picture that helps them understand how they can achieve their targets by doing these things that help the company achieve its target. And you can only do that by engaging them. Engaging them in a one-on-one conversation about their goals and going through a deep goal-setting program. Putting it in writing and figuring out how to get them motivated to hitting those targets. Some people do visual things. Hey, you want a new boat? Put a picture of that boat up right on your desk there. And then you talk about achieving that target. What happens when they get that target? It could be anything, but the engagement is important. Engagement is very important. So hopefully I gave you some food for thought on this podcast today. It's not a very long one, but I think it's important. I think all my podcasts are important, if I'm being honest. But I think it's important that you understand that just throwing a goal out there and saying it's for the company and you should be a team player is not enough. A good leader paints the picture. Okay, think about our politicians, whether you like the current landscape or not. It's the one who paints the best picture that wins the day. They project to you what they can do to help you achieve your targets. They don't talk about themselves. Thank you for subscribing to The Funnel. Head on over to alignment-group.com/The Funnel. If you haven't subscribed, then do so. You can find us on Facebook. I'm on Twitter @ShayJohnR, and of course LinkedIn. You can contact me, jshay at alignment-group.com, and our website is alignment-group.com. Now, I do receive emails on a regular basis, and it does take me a bit of time, depending on how many I get, to get back. So don't be discouraged if I don't get back to you right away. I really do address them as quickly as possible. And if I have the opportunity to catch up, I do. Sometimes I'm out of town or I'm traveling, and it just makes it a little bit more difficult. So hang in there. I do respond to every email that's sent to me. Again, thank you for subscribing, and as always, keep filling the funnel.